Welcome to Arise Entertainment 360. I'm Shannon, LaNier.
And I'm Keturah King. Live from New York, we're here with your 360 look at entertainment, arts, and culture.
And it's International Women's Day.
Yes, it is.
Which makes it the perfect time to stop and focus on the challenges
and the achievements of women.
And of course, to highlight some of our past guests that have been on this show. So let's kick things off with taking a look at our first guest.
Ooh, let's talk to Jocelyn Taylor.
Jocelyn Taylor, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Hello, good morning. So you have to tell us first and foremost, what is Layer Up with JRT?
I love that. Well, thank you. Well, I am JRT, so I'll start backwards, Jocelyn Renee Taylor. And the phrase itself, the colloquialism, as I like to say, layering up, and here's the symbol, it's all about being staying poised, positioned, and prepared.
Oh.
And it goes against, or should I say, it goes across all disciplines, particularly with women. As we are layered up, we are less likely to be put in the category of being victimized. Hence, therefore, we wouldn't necessarily always have to be put in the category of saying we're Me Too or Time's Up.
Wow.
Because when you feel a certain way about yourself, you're positioned and you're poised in the way that you project your energy and the type of energy that you're going to bring back to you.
Wow.
And that goes against any discipline, professionally and personally.
Wow.
So what was the inspiration behind starting this? What made you want to just go ahead and take it?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Shannon, I've known you for years, and I've been in the media realm, first as a magazine publisher for years. I was the publisher of Uptown Magazine and a digital publication. And when I pivoted from that, from that arena, being the serial entrepreneur that I am, I wanted to do something that I could say, I've made millions of dollars for companies over the last 20 years as a sales executive, as a brand strategist. Why don't I fold back into myself? Hence layering. But with that said, I started JRT Multimedia, which is a branding marketing boutique agency, and where I pretty much use the same type of principles as I did as a publisher, whereas you have the accessibility to C-suite executives. As a publisher, you are the person that's bringing in the money. You're monetizing the brand through advertising sales, through marketing, through the online, through big events, public relations, and all those departments fold into you. So taking that same type of attitude in terms of how I would give marching orders or direct it to my staff, I said, with JRT Multimedia, I'll do this. But in the last few months, we've been hearing a lot about Me Too and Time's Up. And ironically enough, in November, I guest starred with a friend on OWN's network, a show called Checked In. And during that show, this particular episode was about get your sexy back.
Oh,
and for women, and it was for women 40 plus. And Monique Greenwood, who's former editor-in-chief with Essence, has a beautiful estate. She started with a Quapa in Brooklyn, and hence 3 to 4 other properties throughout the country. This particular one was the old Woolworth estate out in the Poconos. So
Which is on her reality show.
Right. So we went to the estate, and at one point, a few women were sitting around just conversing in general. One of the women made a comment, and I actually said to her, "Girl, you need to get some layers on you for JJ." So I had to.
Real talk.
But I explained what that meant, because again, how many times as a director have we heard as man up, get some balls, ball up. Now I have a daughter, so part of the twofold to your answer, to your question, my answer is that I have a daughter who's now going to be 21. So when she was younger, instead of me telling I'm not going to tell my 10-year-old girl, grow a set of balls. Doesn't make sense. Even though, but we laugh about it, but no one thinks about that when they're talking about a man telling him to get it together, be confident, right?
Yeah.
So now, as a woman, I'm saying get some layers. But it's so much, the layers is so much, it's proverbial, but it's also literal and it's also spiritual. So back when she was 15, she was on her way back from a friend's house in Westchester. I was scheduled to go pick her up, and it was a Sunday, and usually traffic from where I live in New Jersey to Westchester can be a disaster taking the GW. So I called my girlfriend and I said, would you mind, maybe you can put my daughter on the train? And she was like, she's only 15. I was like, you know what? It's time for her to leave the village and get her first layer. Let's get her on the train. And the girlfriend that was with me at the time started laughing. She was like, Jocelyn, you're insane. I'm like, no, seriously. So I said, my daughter's name is Janae, and I said, Nay, when you get on the train, you're going to go from Scarsdale and go straight into Grand Central. There's a big clock in the middle. and I'm going to be there waiting for you. So, you know, a little vacillation. Oh, Mom, what if I miss it? I said, look, unless everybody is walking and jumping on the tracks, follow the crowd, and then just go out there, and I'll be there, and I'll be waiting for you. And
I love that. That's such a great thing for a parent to do to a child, because at some point, like you said, you have got to layer up.
You got to layer up. So I'm like, layer up, baby, layer up. I was there waiting for her, and to this day, my daughter is layered up.
So is that one of the things you try to teach the people that are in the organization is, you know, step out of your comfort zone, do things you would not normally do to help you get more layers on you?
That's a great question. I've been layered up since I was about 18 months old. So for some people, it's innate, where, you know, I always say, if you haven't gotten fired from at least 1 or 2 jobs, you're not layered up.
Well, I guess I'm all the way layered up.
So, you know what I mean? And because you know what that means, I color outside the lines. I'm not afraid of saying, and this ties right back into me too. I'm not afraid to say, well, if I don't do this, what if I get fired? If I don't this, I wonder if I don't get the promotion. I'm poised, positioned, and prepared. Only I define me. If I'm not doing anything that's illegal or doing anything that I'm disrupting someone or being, you know, any type of behavior that would make me be disrespectful, you're not going to subject me to that as well. And I don't make excuses for other people's shortcomings, male or female. So being layered up, even though it was kind of born in the time of this Me Too and Time's Up and this awareness, higher awareness, I said, wait a minute. And I was in Downward Dog, I was in yoga. It was shortly after the show had aired, and some friends started saying to me, girl, I'm layered up. Get your layers on. And I was like, wait a minute. I had an epiphany. It was like, oh.
So this is a phrase that you have been using all your life?
I had been using it for years, particularly with my daughter. It was a directive, even at work. I would say to my staff or some of the girls, like, girl, get the layers on. Let's go. Let's go. And I don't want to hear it, or if I'm trying to get bottom line numbers from my team, and they were like, well, you know, I don't know if he said he kind of thought. I said, layer up. What do we? Are the numbers coming in or not?
I love it. So you've spoken quite a lot about the reception from females, but what has the reception been like from men and colleagues and, you know, other people?
Well, perfect. My colleague, or should I say my partner, Chandra McQueen, and I were out in Sundance this past last month, and we launched this campaign. As some of the pictures back here, you know, show, I was invited to come and speak on a panel because, as I mentioned, which being the chief brand strategist for JRT Multimedia, many times I'm a moderator or a panelist or part of, you know, a dais, you know, where I'm speaking in different organizations. I've had a movie that I worked with last summer, and, you know, I was recognized at one of those events that I got it into the to the New York International Film Festival at one, called Sink or Swim, and it's about the journey of Africans migrating but being sold into human trafficking, unbeknownst to them. So one of those persons asked me, can you come out and speak during the 2018 Sundance Film Festival? At this time, Layer Up hadn't even manifested. And in speaking with Chandra, who, like I said, has a background in PR and communications in her own right, we just started brainstorming. I started telling her about the Layer Up, about the television show. She's like, wow, that sounds kind of hot. I like that. She came to my home. We start brainstorming, just like you do. You kind of get in that round table discussion, and everyone starts sharing ideas. I brought a few other people over. And then, as they say, voila. You know, we came up with the idea of, although stay poised, positioned, and prepared, I'd come up with that catchphrase as well, because I consider myself like a wordsmith. I come up real quick with ideas. But by having a team, we were able to quickly put it all together. So when I went out there, we got T-shirts made, which you see the T-shirts here, you know, little catchphrases on the back, which I have several. But for men, unlike where the women, there's a fingernail, so I identify as being, you know, feminine, the men's shirt says, my word, let your word be your bond. And on the back it says, be part of the conversation.
Well, we all want to be part of this conversation and continue the conversation. So how can people get a hold of you and your organization and become a part of it?
Great. Well, it's a 5-part layered, or should I say multi-tiered, there's the word layered, but it's hashtag Layer Up with JRT.
Okay.
And you go to Facebook. While we were there, from Idris Elba to who I've known from through business, and Common and Megan Good and so many other people, even people on the streets, you know, people were purchasing the shirts, people were putting their L's up, and it's showing in solidarity. We would like to get, this is about education, where I would like to get involved with particularly disenfranchised women, whether they're in the prison system, whether they're homeless, whether there's what's going on right now with the gun control and young women. And we want to be that voice that comes to life. show you that this has so many layers. Corporate partnerships.
We have to go, unfortunately, but we're going to continue following those layers. And
we're going to say poised, positioned, and prepared.
Can you get your Ella for me?
Layer it up.
Layer it up.
We're going to stay layered up here.
Stay layered up.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn, for coming in.
Thank
And we'll be right back with more 360. Layer up.
Layer up.
Now, our next look back guest is used to being in front of the camera, but for her next project, she's switching gears.
That's right. We spoke with Pasean Wilson Ashley about her medical documentary, The F Word. Take a look.
Hi, Pasean. Welcome to Arise 360.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, that title got me at first. I was like, oh, the F word. Oh, we're talking about fibroids. Okay, it's okay.
That's
but
right.
I still think a lot of people don't understand what fibroids are. So what are they exactly?
They're benign, non-cancerous, smooth muscle tumors, which afflict women all over the world, but most commonly women of African descent.
And what prompted you to produce a documentary on fibroids?
Well, I had fibroid tumors, and the first doctor told me we would watch them and wait and see what happened. And the next time I went to a doctor, which was like maybe 3 or 4 years later, they were like, oh, you have fibroids and you need a hysterectomy.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, you went from watching and waiting to you want to take everything out. And so I ended up finding out about a myomectomy, which is a procedure where they remove the fibroids, but leave your uterus intact.
Oh, wow.
And when I woke up from that surgery, my husband and sister told me about a woman in the waiting room who had been given a hysterectomy, who was 25 years old.
Oh, no.
And that just broke my heart. I mean, I was an actress. I never even thought about filming anything, but I was like, I'm doing a documentary.
And just for the sake of clarity, for those that do not know or those that don't have a medical background, can you just explain to us exactly what a hysterectomy is so they understand the severity of what
there are a few different types of hysterectomies, but for the purpose of this discussion, it's just a removal of the uterus. But sometimes they'll do like just remove the cervix. Sometimes they'll remove the uterus, the cervix, and the ovaries. So there are different types of hysterectomies. But basically, you're unable to have children after you've had a hysterectomy. A myomectomy is a procedure where they just remove the fibroid tumors, but you can still, conceive if you want that option.
And while doing some research and stuff through this film, how many women would you say have gone through this procedure, a hysterectomy, without even needing it, or people that don't even know that a myosectomy is called
myomectomy.
Myomectomy. I know, but I've never even heard of it, and I don't think many women know that that is a possibility or an option for them.
Yeah, well, they say about 600,000 women are given hysterectomies a year,
and that do not need it.
It depends on who you talk to. Okay, doctors will say a woman needs it because that's the only 100% way to ensure that a woman will not have fibroids ever again. Because if you do, say, a myomectomy or uterine artery embolization or any of the other procedures, fibroids will come back because just taking them out doesn't get rid of what caused them in the first place. So if you take the uterus out, then you never have to worry about a woman having fibroids again ever in life.
And she loses her ability
to
have children.
So that's the first, treatment option that is offered to most women, and to me also. It's like, oh, you have, fibroids and they're large, and you need to have a hysterectomy. And a doctor is not required to tell you about a procedure that they do not perform, because what they perform is considered the gold standard.
Of course.
So if they know about other procedures, they don't have to tell you about it because it's not what they do and it's not the gold standard. So, I guess it's a preemptive thing. They figured that eventually a woman will have to have a hysterectomy anyway because the fibroids are going to keep coming back. But my point is, give us the option. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
A woman might want to preserve her childbearing years, before she ultimately might have to have a hysterectomy. But now there are all types of alternative treatments that are out there now that are, giving hope to women who really want to preserve their uterus and not have any surgery at all. So I've been working on it for 10 years, so much has happened and changed over the past 10 years in terms of treatment options for fibroids, both holistic and Western.
So in terms of the documentary, The F Word, you interviewed a lot of notable women.
Yes.
Tell us about some of the stories that stuck out to you in particular.
Well, Rhonda Ross, her story really stuck out to me because she had fibroids. She had a myomectomy, and then she wanted to conceive a child, and her fibroids had come back.
so they wanted her to have another procedure. And she decided she was not having another procedure. And she went on and got pregnant. Has this beautiful son who speaks 3 languages. He's like a little baby genius,
right?
you know. But that story, you know, really sticks out to me. Beverly Johnson, who was given a hysterectomy many years ago, and her life was a living hell afterwards. Because you don't know, with any type of surgery, the side effects, you can't predict what's going to happen. Each woman, you know, will respond differently. And so her body just responded very negatively to the hysterectomy, and she had all kinds of complications, scar tissue, just all kinds of issues. So those are 2. Sonia Sanchez, who is a poet. I always say, you know, you got Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni, and Sonia Sanchez. You know, she's just an amazing activist and poet. And she had fibroids, and she was able to, she said, get rid of her fibroids. Those are the words she used, with a macrobiotic diet.
Interesting.
Wow.
And then addressing stress, because that's one of the things that we don't really discuss. You know, with most diseases, it can be, there's a link somewhere, you know, to stress. And with fibroids in particular, because when women are stressed, they produce hormones, and one of the hormones they produce is estrogen, and one of the things that feeds fibroids is estrogen.
Wow. So
You know.
a healthy diet, good stressless lifestyle helps. What other things or tips or advice will you hope people will take away from this film?
That's a good question. I know there are 2 doctors in Atlanta who have a protocol that's really amazing. Dr. Amun and Dr. Ansu and Jesse Thompson. Hope Beyond Fibroids is the name of their program, Fibroid Elimination. And so they have a 4-part program. It's a diet. They have supplements, herbal supplements. Qigong, which is a stress reliever. It's like an Asian, I want to say martial arts, but not really martial arts, but it helps the body to reduce stress. And then you also work with a coach. So you're dealing with the mind and the body. But if I could answer that question, I'd be a billionaire. So I'm working on it, though.
You'd make a lot of money from the
working on it. I knew exactly, you know, what it was. But, you know, I think they're really successful. I interviewed one of their patients who got rid of 50 fibroids in 6 months.
Whoa.
50 fibroids in 6 months doing that program.
Wow.
And she completely changed her diet. She went from a standard American diet to an estrogen supportive diet. So it's not even just vegan. It's not even just plant-based. It's a diet that stays away even from vegetables or fruits that can be estrogen. You know?
Let me ask you this.
So it was a very limited diet.
Do you think it's important for women who have not been diagnosed to have fibroids to still stick to these precautions, like a precautionary plan?
Absolutely,
So they don't get them, or?
especially if it runs in your family.
Okay.
You know?
So genetic.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. And that's one of the things we explore in the documentary too. Is like, why, you know, do women of African descent, women with melanin, predisposed? And I was talking to Dr. Joy DeGruy, who wrote this book called The Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome.
What a title.
Post-traumatic slave. And she really talks about the connection between our experience in slavery and not having any control over our reproductive organs, males or female slaves, and what that did, that trauma. You know what I'm saying? So what that did to the DNA, how that changed the DNA, and then over the years, the stress and trauma that you go through as a person of color.
Oh, so now there are other diseases that African Americans are predisposed to, things like sickle cell, for example.
Yes.
But how can you mentioned men earlier, how can men get involved with this and support the cause?
Really supporting their women who suffer from fibroids, liking my Facebook page. F word, Instagram, the F word, and just really becoming involved and asking questions. I do know of a lot of men who come to me with questions because, you know, their wives or their girlfriends or their sisters or their mothers or whatever, you know, suffer from fibroids, and they see them suffering. I mean, it's not like a light thing. You just think, oh, she bleeds a lot. Oh, she might have a long period. The pain is excruciating. But I hear stories about people who got pregnant, you know, who get pregnant and then are unable to go full term with the baby because the fibroid and the baby are fighting for room or fighting for blood or fighting for whatever it is, and you lose the baby. And then, you know, I know.
I think this is an important documentary for men, for women to watch, for a lot of people. So where can people catch it? How can we see it?
Well, right now we're in post-production. We're raising funds for all of the post-production costs. That's, you know, the editing.
We need to donate. Where are we going to donate?
We are actually, I'm going to let you know when we do it, but we're going to be starting a crowdfunding campaign. But right now, Fibroid, fworddocumentary.com is our website that's under construction, but put it in your notes now, because when we have it up, you'll be able to get information on how you can donate when we do start our crowdfunding campaign. But it's a very, very important subject, and I'm so glad you guys had me on to talk about it.
We are happy that you actually even came up with this. You know, this documentary is momentous. It's so extraordinary that you chose to speak on it. So, well done.
Thank you so much.
Continued success. We can't wait for it. Come back when it comes out.
Absolutely.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Thank you. And we have much more Rise 360 after this break.
Welcome back to Rise Entertainment 360. Now, the Black Lives Matter movement has been at the forefront of the fight for equality, police transparency, and justice for murdered African Americans at the hands of police.
And our next guest is the co-founder of that movement and author of the new book, When They Call You a Terrorist, a Black Lives Matter memoir. Let's take a look.
Patrice Kalor, welcome to Rise 360.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate all the work you have done for the Black Lives Matter movement and for the injustices that we've been facing in this country.
Yes, indeed.
So
now, your book talks a lot about resilience and strength and survival.
Yes.
Tell us about the book and why you decided to write it.
It's a coming-of-age story. It really is me trying to situate the conversation about anti-Black racism and talking to people about why this movement would even be created. I wanted people to understand that as a child, I witnessed state violence on a regular basis. I witnessed policing and over-incarceration, and it's what led in a lot of ways to the building of Black Lives Matter.
Yes,
Wow.
indeed.
Okay, so for those people that are out there and they actually believe that the Black Lives Matter movement is full of terrorists, anti-cop people, anti-white people, what do you say to those people?
I say that you're wrong. I say that if you take a moment to just look at the people who are actually leading Black Lives Matter, who are at the forefront of Black Lives Matter, we've always called for peace. We've always called for justice, especially for our family members, especially for the ones who've been killed by law enforcement.
Now, we are in America, of course, so everyone here knows what the Black Lives Matter movement is, but this is an international channel, so not everybody might be familiar with it. Take me through why you started it and what it's about.
Well, we started it when George Zimmerman was acquitted of Trayvon Martin's murder. Trayvon Martin was a young boy from Sanford, Florida, who was in his own neighborhood, went to the store, got some Skittles and iced tea, and next thing you know, he's dead by a neighborhood watchman named George Zimmerman. That year was a whole trial from 2012 to 2013. I thought that George Zimmerman was going to get manslaughter at least, but he didn't. He got to go home that night. And I couldn't live with the thought of that being the period to the story. And so I went on social media to kind of look at what we were going to do, what was the call to action. And my good friend Alicia Garza wrote a love note to Black people, and she closed it with Black Lives Matter, and I put a hashtag on it. And when I put the hashtag on it, it was the first moment where I was like, this is something that could be bigger than just the phrase. And we talked it out, her and I, and decided that we wanted to do something with it. And then Opal Tometi, a few days later, daughter of Nigerian immigrants, joined Black Lives Matter. And that's the story. The three of us started it. And we're now a global movement. We have over 40 chapters across the globe in the United States, United Kingdom, and in Canada.
Well, and a lot of people, you mentioned the hashtag, a lot of people know you from the hashtag, but you guys do so much more. Talk to us about some of the other things you do to incite change.
Well, I've been a part of the movement for a long time. I'm 34 years old. I joined it when I was 16, 17 years old. I joined a civil rights organization. I was tired of just learning about racism and poverty. I wanted to do something about it. And so I joined the Bus Riders Union when I was 17 and a half. And I was there as a civil rights organization in Los Angeles fighting for better transit, environmental justice. And then I started my own organization before Black Lives Matter called Dignity and Power Now, where we fight for the rights of people who've been incarcerated inside LA County jails.
Wow. Now, I have to ask you about, because it's something that we see, you mentioned the hashtag that we see on social media, but then you also see hashtags like All Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter.
Yes.
What do you think about the people that have sort of almost hijacked the Black Lives Matter movement and made it their own?
I think it's unfortunate because when you say all lives matter, of course they do.
Right.
Of course they do. What we're saying is Black Lives Matter too.
Yes.
Black Lives Matter isn't about exclusion, it's about focus. And Blue Lives Matter is clearly a defensive, really police and law enforcement who are trying to demonize and minimize the Black Lives Matter movement by trying to put their, cause, and really, they're one of the most protected classes. And I think it's unfortunate when we see Blue Lives Matter.
Yeah, you make that very apparent in the book. So what do you hope readers will take away from your book?
I want readers to invest in Black authors. There's so many amazing Black authors. It's Black authors that helped me get through my many years of witnessing state violence. I read Octavia Butler, Bell Hooks, Audre Lorde. But I also want readers to take action. Join something. Join an organization.
Definitely, that's very true. And you have been in many organizations. I was looking through your bio. I was like, well, she's been just about in every organization. like you said, you started when you were just a teen, but you never stopped. You continued. You sit on board. You do many activist issues. What is, besides Black Lives Matter, what's the other #1 issue that you're fighting for?
Maternal health. Black women, especially in the United States, have the highest maternal mortality and morbidity numbers. We're 3 to 4 times more likely to die during childbirth and after that first year after. It's because of racism. It's because of neglect. It's because of lack of care. And it's because from the moment we're born, our bodies are neglected by the health system. And so by the time we carry a child, it's actually really difficult on our bodies. And when we're in labor, in hospitals in particular, the lack of care that happens over and over again. I've met with so many families who lost their wives, their sisters, their cousins to maternal mortality. It's a big issue of mine. I'm a senior fellow at Moms Rising and I've been working on the issue for the last 1.5 years.
So what can a layperson like myself or Shannon do to assist the movement?
If you are interested in anything, whether it be reproductive justice or racial justice, women's rights, you can Google. It's easy. Look up an organization that does that work. If you're interested in focusing on the law, you can look up, things like the ACLU or organizations in New York that are local that are really fighting to change policy and law. There's so many avenues. Organizations like Color of Change. I mean, there's so many organizations that people can show up and maybe you can't physically go to a meeting, but maybe you can donate, right? And I think that's important, any way that you can to support some of the people that are doing the hardest work in this country to make American democracy true.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because a lot of people think, oh, I don't want to go out there and march, or I don't want to put my voice out there and be.
It's not the only way you can show up.
Like you said, you can give money, and no one even has to know about it. You can still support the cause, right? Exactly.
So, what is the hope for this book? What do you hope that it's going to achieve?
I hope that it gets everywhere. I mean, we've published already in the U.S. We just published in the U.K. on the 25th. The German press has picked it up, so it's published in Germany. And I hope that it debunks a lot of the myths of Black Lives Matter. And I also hope that it gives people an entryway into what Black life has looked like in this country, especially for poor Black people, and how we can move into action. Yeah,
well, it seems like a lot of action is still needed. And do you think there's a greater need now for Black Lives Matter than when Trayvon was first shot?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially when we live under a government that has called it a law and order government, a government that has called Black Lives Matter a terrorist organization, and a government that's trying to drag us back to the old days of the war on drugs and really, Jim Crow era.
Speaking of the government that has called Black Lives Matter a terrorist organization, you have to show us your shirt. You have to pick this up on camera. Absolutely amazing. When they call you a daughter, author, survivor, activist, terrorist, and the ends of all those words come together to make terrorist, that is amazing. Is this something you designed yourself?
I didn't. It was actually one of our team members that designed it, and we were trying to, outside of the book, how do we have a larger conversation? And this is the age of the T-shirt with words on it, so we thought that this was an interesting idea, and I love it. I think it's amazing.
Oh, we think the shirt's amazing. Black Lives Matter is amazing.
We pre-ordered 20, please. I need to hand them out. Give them to my family members.
Right. Well, we'll take
gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Success with
we have to also talk about where the book is available.
Yes.
For those of our viewers that want to pick it up.
Okay, so it's on Amazon, but it's also in independent bookstores across New York. It's also at Barnes & Noble, and you can pick it up Barnes & Noble inside Barnes & Noble, or you can go on bn.com.
That is a gorgeous book cover as well. Wow,
when they call you a terrorist, pick it up now. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for
Continued
success. All right.
We will be right back with more Rise Entertainment 360.
Welcome back to Rise 360 and our International Women's Day, where we're appreciating all the work women do for us.
Absolutely. Now our next guest is a triple threat. She does it all. She acts, she sings, she dances, and she stars in the wildly popular show Andy Mack. Sophia Wiley. Let's take a look. Welcome to the show, Sophia Wiley. We appreciate you being here. Foremost, we have to congratulate you on your 3rd season. How does it feel to be on such a popular show?
It's so amazing. The fan base has been incredible this season, and I just found out today about season 3, and all of the cast and I were almost bawling, but we were on national television, so we were like, maybe not. So how are you going to celebrate? Probably a huge dinner, because of course food is my bae.
I love you already. A woman after my own heart.
Yes, but it's so exciting.
That is exciting. It seems like you guys, like I saw you on the Good Morning America this morning, you guys really get along. Do you guys like hang out offset, or is it just when you're at working, you're working so much as it is?
All of the cast and I are together probably 24/7. We love each other, which I'm so thankful for, because I've heard all these horror stories of casts that hate each other, and I couldn't imagine spending most of my life with people I dislike, so I'm very, very lucky and blessed.
Now, your show tackles some real-life issues like teen pregnancy and the LGBTQ community. How do you prepare for such a role?
Well, I've always been someone who accepts everybody and wants to share love and compassion towards everybody. So when I got the script for this show, I was so excited, because I've always wanted to let everybody know that it's okay to be yourself. And so the scene where one of the characters came out to my character, I was bawling even when it wasn't my coverage, because it's such a real life situation, and kids all over the world need to understand that this is what happens in real life, and it's okay.
And that was such a talked about moment on the show, because it really brought awareness to it. But you're only 14. I mean, it's amazing to see how personable and how intelligent you are about, and well informed about these issues.
Thank you.
Again, what sort of research goes into this? Do you actually study up on it? I mean, is it an active interest on your part?
I think it's something that I've just grown up knowing that it's okay to be who I am, because I am different, and I don't always look like everybody else, and it was hard for me to accept myself for who I was, since I'm different and I grew up where I was the lesser majority. So I think I've kind of always had that intuition in me.
So what advice do you give to other young women who are looking up to you and they may not be as confident or as comfortable in their own skin as you?
I've been through so many phases of my life already, even though I'm only 14 years old, where I've doubted myself for who I am in so many different ways in my career, just how I look in general. I would just say, be who you are. Don't let other people bring you down, and you'll succeed in life way, way better and way faster if you just believe in yourself.
And you mentioned looking different and being different quite a number of times already. Now, you are Asian, Caucasian, and African American. I mean, wow. How do you deal with some of the issues that have arisen in your own life, with regards to your race?
Well, I've been very lucky, because I'm growing up in a generation where I've been way more accepted lately. But I couldn't imagine growing up in a century where the color of my skin determines my job and how much I get paid, or whatever it is. So I'm very, very lucky to be growing up at the time that I am. But I think it's so important that we all are treated equally as human beings, because no matter what gender you are, or sex, or color of your skin, we're all human beings here.
Do you realize how much of a role model that you have become, and how many young women are looking up to you?
I'm inspired by you, and I'm proud of you.
Well, my daughters are in the green room. They're acting shy today, but they were looking up to you, and they love your hair. It's like they can embrace themselves and be proud of their own hair, because they have really curly hair when they let it out.
Someone like themselves on the screen.
It's a good representation. Is there a lot of pressure to uphold that whole image of being a role model, not messing up?
Well, I would say I've grown up watching Disney Channel, and I love Zendaya, because I instantly felt connected to her, because she looked like me and she represented what I am. And so I don't feel like there's pressure, because I'm just being who I am, and that being who I am is showing others that it's okay to be who you are too.
That's awesome.
So what do some of your friends at school think of your success? Do they still treat you the same way, or are they like, oh, girl, no, you Hollywood now?
No, I'm so lucky because I can go back to Arizona where I'm from, and I just get back into the groove of things. I get to dance with my friends and hang out with them like not a day has passed that I've been filming a TV show or anything.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm very, very lucky to have the friends that I do.
You say you go back and dance, so you dance, sing, you act. Which one? I know, triple threat. So which one do you enjoy more and why?
Well, I started dancing first, and I absolutely adore
What kind
dancing.
of dancing?
Every style,
Oh,
but
wow.
my favorite style is hip hop. It's the first one I did start, and I think it's just stuck with me, and it's always been in my heart. But I never thought I'd love anything as much as I love dancing. But then I found acting, and I loved it so much. So I'm really lucky because I get to incorporate all of those things in different shows or scenarios that I'm in my life. So I think God has prepared me for all of those situations.
Speaking of different shows, you actually went on tour with Justin Bieber.
Yes.
What was that like?
I was very starstruck. I've never washed the shirt that I wore when I danced with him because he touched my shoulder.
Well, in that case, did you frame it yet?
I have not. I know. I'm such a disappointment. No, it was so amazing. I've been a believer since I was like forever.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was really, really amazing, and I loved it.
Okay, what was he like in person? Was he on his best behavior?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Oh yes.
Well, I'll come for you if you want. Look, that's my
I
girl.
was a little jelly of Selena because I know they've been having this thing, but are they still together? I
They
think.
Back on, back off. Right now they are.
You know what? I think that they're soulmates, and I think they're going to be together forever. But I think they're going to continuously break up and continuously get back together.
I can't keep track.
So tell us what you're up to this year. What do you have in the pipeline?
Well, since we have season 3 coming up, we'll be shooting that this year, which we don't know when yet, but I'm so excited for that. I have a couple
excited
other
for you.
projects that I can't exactly say about.
Oh, come on, spill.
I know I wish.
Tell us one.
But I'm really excited because there's a bunch of things set up, and I'm getting to travel. I get to go to Sweden and Canada, and I just can't even describe it in words.
Well,
because
some of those
it's so
projects,
fun.
it's not just TV. You're going to be delving into some movies as well, right?
Look, you're giving it away. Do you see what he's trying to do? She's too smart for you, Shannon. She knows exactly what you're trying to pull.
Who knows?
Just give us, maybe start one title, one letter of the title. Right. We can guess.
Oh, you guys want the juice?
We do. Come on.
How about maybe you tell us in the break, you give us a little rundown of what's going on?
Fine.
And you have to tell us about this jacket. Are you a fashionista too? Look at this bling.
Oh, yes. Since birth, I've been coming out of the womb like in the fashion costume.
Yes.
No,
Right. So is that a pastime for you? You're
Yes,
not singing, dancing, and acting?
I love modeling as well. It's so much fun. Of course, I try not to break my ankles while I'm on the runway because you don't want to be that meme.
No.
But I love all of them. It's been in me my whole life, but just recently other things have kind of come about that I've found a big love for.
Well, my darling, you are incredibly talented, and the sky is only your beginning. Well done on all your success so far.
Oh my
And please
gosh.
continue being a great role model for my girls and all the young women that are
And
out
my
there.
unborn children.
Yes, and her as well.
Me. Yes, exactly. I need you as a role model. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right.
We will be right back after this break with more Rise Entertainment 360. Welcome back to Rise Entertainment 360. Now our next look back guest is a songbird who's been performing for over 4 decades.
Wow. And Tiffany Bino stopped by to sing her new single, Free, from the forthcoming latest album, Me. Let's take a look.
Bino, welcome to Rise 360.
Thank you for having me.
How are
So
you?
much. I'm good, thank you.
Can we
How
talk
are
about this outfit, please?
Yes.
Because, yes. I mean, head to toe silver.
Oh, thank you so
sure
much.
are an entertainer, girl.
My stylist, Chad, I have to give a shout out to him. He just, he knows what works for me. And
Love it. Well, it's definitely working.
thank you. And you're beautiful as well.
Stop it.
Beauty, I feel so special.
You're sandwiched in between goddesses.
I love it. I love it.
That's the way to say it.
All right, so let's talk more about your career, because you have performed all over the world, and you have been vetted officially because you performed at the Amateur Night at the Apollo Theater and won several times.
Yes.
Tell us about that experience, like, because I would be like so nervous because they just like, boo, they'll get you off the stage.
Apollo Theater.
The Apollo Theater. And you know what's so ironic about that whole thing is that I wrote a book called Ugly Duckling No More because of some things that I went through as a kid, as a teenager, and I had eczema on my face really, really, really bad. Not like just a traditional where you had a breakout, but it was really bad to where in 7th grade I wouldn't attend school.
Wow.
So I failed 7th grade for lack of attendance.
Oh.
And so think about it. Somebody that would have eczema on their face and feeling like that, how do you get up on the Apollo Theater and do that, you know? And so what happened was I began to really, I studied that book, Ugly Duckling, sorry. And in that book, what I began to find was myself, you know, and I found that I was, you know, I had begun to hide myself away from some things, and then as I did that, I found myself, and as I found myself, I had already evolved on the outside, but my mindset was already where I had stopped growing at, you know? So I had to look in the mirror at that person too, you know, and deal with that and balance those things to where it wasn't about what you see. I mean, that's important, but it's about how I see myself, you know? Self-love. That's the main thing I had to really just focus on, was how to love myself with the imperfections that I thought I had. Because once I got older, I realized, you know, when you become an adult, those are
no one cares about eczema.
Well, not only that, but hello, here's another realm of something you're going to have to get over. So,
like, we care about bills. We don't care about eczema.
Changing diapers.
Absolutely. There's more serious things in the world than eczema.
Right.
But let's talk about your family, because just like you performing at the legendary Apollo Theater, you also have a few legends in your family as well.
I do.
Get ready.
Baby.
Tonight.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make I'm not
night to remember. Get ready.
Get ready. Okay. How he is your uncle?
Yes, he is.
Wow.
Yes. My mom's the oldest, and he's the baby. Well, he's the second to the baby. And my uncle is funny because growing up, I was the oldest niece. So, and the only niece at that time. So my uncle was dating this young lady named Torn, and he was crazy about her. And she had this little sister who they couldn't get any quiet time if she, you know.
Right.
So I often wondered, I didn't realize till I got older, I was like, why does he always drag me over there to go play with her, you know? And come to find out.
Distractions, right. Oh,
it's like, okay, you're old enough, I can give you the story.
Right.
That's so funny.
That's fine. And you actually got a chance to perform with him as well, right?
We perform all the time,
awesome.
together. I went on tour with him. It's funny because we actually have a foundation called the Hewitt Foundation, and we do things as well as it's a family event that we go out and we all sing and, you know, just really represent and have a good time.
I love it. So all singing, all dancing, family.
All dancing. Oh my
now,
goodness.
Speaking of your family, at one point in time in your life, you had quite a scary situation with your daughter.
Yeah, I did.
Talk to us about her heart condition.
I did. My daughter was born with dextrocardia, and dextrocardia is when your heart is reversed. So where if they had to fix the heart, then they could go in and, you know, do what they need to do. But with the heart being reversed, they would actually have to put a mirror in front of the heart and actually do the surgery looking through the mirror because you can't. You know.
That's
so my daughter went through 2 open heart surgeries like that. And the interesting thing about this is that our faith, you know, and our belief was it is, you know, really the epitome of who we are. And so we cultivated that to the point to where if you didn't believe like us, you know, no offense, but you can't come in this space because we have to believe, you know, that the miraculous can happen. And I can't believe the miraculous can happen if anybody's in here doubting, you know. So we had to remove all doubt from the room.
We're not listening to the doctors. We're listening to God.
In fact, the doctors till this day, they come to my daughter and they're like, you know, my God, You know, they told her that, you know, well, actually with dextrocardia usually comes Down syndrome and a bulk of other issues. Well, she doesn't have anything. She just has the dextrocardia.
Wow.
And she's never been on any medication. She's never, in fact, I'll give you this story. This is a tearjerker. But her last surgery when she was 9 years old, like I said, our faith was so strong. And I made sure she was always in it, you know, always hearing the word, always hearing, you know, that God is real, you know. And so I remember her last surgery, they would give her the oral anesthesia before they knock her out, you know, so you can really spend a little more time before that happens. So I'm in the room talking to her, and you know, and I knew it was getting close to that time. So I said, "Okay, Gabby, Mommy's going to be on the other side of the room, of the door, and I'll be right here," you know. And she says, "I know, Mom." And so I went to push the door open. I had already kissed on her and did all that. I went to push the door open, and my daughter goes, "Mom, I'm not scared." And mind you, this is her second open heart surgery.
At 9 years old.
At 9 years old. And I couldn't ask her why. I didn't ask her nothing. I was just chill trying to get out that door because I didn't want...
We're all about to start crying. I can see tears in your eyes. I'm about to start crying.
I didn't want that last thing that she saw was her mom in distress.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
So no, I'm trying to get out that door.
Right.
And my daughter goes, "Well, don't you want to know why?" And talk it. And so I turned around and I'm like, "Yeah, Gabby, why? Why?" And you know what my 9-year-old said? She said, "Because I know God is with me."
Oh, no.
You know, and when she said that, I knew everything that I left, everything that I walked away, everything that I thought that I had that was great.
Wow.
Nothing was worth that moment.
Praise
you
God.
know?
You did a great job. And now miracles are true. They happen
they
because she's
happen.
now a grown adult. She's in her 20s now.
Yeah.
She's healthy. She's great. Amen.
Thank you so
It
much.
is awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. And now you have a foundation real quick.
Yes.
It's called Gabby's.
It's Gabby's Heart Foundation. It started with her, and of course.
Right.
And yeah, it's a wonderful thing, and we really talk to a lot of women and young women and young boys that we find that actually live on these floors, because see, my daughter's heart could be repaired. They needed new hearts. They couldn't function outside of being on these floors, you know.
And where can we get more information about the organization?
You can go to my website, www.tiffany.com, and
Did you have to think about that?
You know,
Tiffany.com.
I'm getting over a head cold. You know how that can be sometimes. You kind of have to second guess yourself.
Right. Okay, so Tiffany.com is where we can find it, and we want to hear you sing. So we want you to hang out. We're going to take a break, right?
Yes, we are. So we will be right back with more Rise Entertainment 360, and after the break, we will hear the delectable Tiffany Bino sing a song.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Rise Entertainment 360. We are still here with singer Tiffany Bino, as promised.
That's right, and she's now going to sing the song called Free from her new album. Tiffany, take it away.
Thank you so much.
All right.
And I just got to be me. Got to ecstasy, 'cause I'll only be here for a while. I've got to be free, free, free. Oh, it's got to be me, yeah, yeah. Me, me, yeah. Oh, see, I just got to be free. Oh, I've got to be free. Free, free. Oh, got to be me.
I gotta be me and I gotta be free.
You better.
Yeah.
So much.
Make sure you check out her new album. We'll see you tomorrow.
www.tiffanyminor.com. You're amazing. So good.